Welcome to Gazette Sports Week, sponsored by 54 Fitness. I'm Dan Russell with Stephen Pistone. Steve, we're going to start off this week talking about some Hammonton Girls Basketball. Lady Blue Devils, busy week last week. They beat Glassboro, they beat Highland, they beat Bridgeton, lost to Kingsway in there as well. So 4 games, went 3-1, improves their record up to 9-2 this year, which is not too shabby. They've won, I think, 18 of their last 21 games. If you count the 9 and 10 they won at the end of last year. This team is playing real well defensively right now, not giving up a lot of points. I think I did the math this morning. They only let about 29 points a game, which is pretty much where you want to be, I think, in girls basketball. They're scoring enough to get by right now. I mean, Sarah Paredes, Jada Thompson are providing most of the offense, but they're getting contributions from other players. I mean, Paige Souter had a couple of nice games last week. Maya Portion's shooting the ball pretty well. It's a different player every night that's kind of filling that gap for them, which I think is nice for Coach Cisco right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to have a complete team that has multiple options that you can rely on. We've seen that from them over the past, I guess you would say, 3 months of play, going back to the halfway point of last season. It's been a great run for them since the halfway point of last year. They've been playing great basketball, and they had some big wins this week to improve to 9-2. The Kingsway win would have been huge. It would have pulled them within 1 game of the division lead in the Tri-County. Really rare, quiet offensive performance for them, only 26 points. And rare defensive letdown with 40 points allowed. Like you said, defense has been stellar for them. Really done a good job at limiting the opposition, putting yourself in a position where you don't have to do too much to win a game. Whereas if you get maybe 40, 45 points, you're going to be in the driver's seat. I think they look much better against the other 3 games, Glassboro, Highland, and Bridgeton. Won those games comfortably, combined score of 129-62. So it's been smooth sailing so far for Hammonton, 9-2. It's the best record I've seen them start with in a long time.
Absolutely.
I went back quite some time.
Yeah.
And, I just think it remains to be seen if they can compete with the top teams like your Kingsways. They did beat Clearview early in the year, which is a pretty good test. But I'd still like to see them string together some wins against contending teams. But so far, they look really good, and that goes back not just this year but to last year. So they got something good going on.
And setting themselves up for a pretty good seed right now. I think they're sitting 4th in South Jersey Group 3 in power points, so they're probably going to be locked into getting a home game, which is going to be nice. Probably be one of the top 4 or 5 seeds in South Jersey in a Group 3 tournament. So for them, I mean, that puts them in a position maybe to get a win or 2 in the playoffs before they have to play somebody really, really good. So we'll see how that works out for them. Over at St. Joe, the boys basketball team, they get back on track. They get a pair of wins last week. They beat Cape May Tech. They beat Bridgeton. Offense looked back on track. I think they topped 80 points in both of these games. Big news of the week, though, was Marcellus Rossa Jr. He tops 1,000 points for his career. He got 23 in a Cape May Tech game. They have a big game this week against Pleasantville. It's going to go a long way, I think, in determining whether or not this team gets into Cape Atlantic League playoffs. Right now, they're sitting really in a tie with Pleasantville for second place in that Cape Atlantic United division. Actually, a tie with Middle Township. Middle beat them. Behind an undefeated Wildcats Catholic team, who St. Joe's going to get on the 24th. That's going to be a huge game in a couple of weeks. But if they can beat Pleasantville this week, they're going to be in pretty good shape. I think it's going to make up for that middle loss that they had earlier in the year. And I mean, this is a team really with not a lot of margin for error in the Cape Atlantic League this year. There's about 10 teams fighting for 8 spots in the Cape right now. So in the Cape playoffs. So if you're St. Joe, you're kind of on that bubble now. And as Coach Rodeo has said to me many, many times in the last week or so, they can't afford to lose games. So going down this week to Cape May Tech and avoiding the upset there was big. Bridgeton's a kind of rebuilding team, kind of feeling that they would hammer them, and they did. But as a St. Joe team that's starting to kind of, I think, figure things out a little bit. They're playing a little bit more under control this year, which is nice to see. Not make as many mistakes, but they can, avoid the nonsense. I think they're going to be a pretty good team.
Yeah, I mean, you got to like what you've seen from the team. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of pressure because they have a great record, but like you said, there's a lot of teams that are gunning for the top spots in that conference. So they got to keep it up. And like you said, again, Pleasantville game's going to be a really big test for them. St. Joe's shooters are going to have to come out firing because Pleasantville can keep that game really close, and I think it will be a close one when it's all said and done. But, I've liked what I've seen from St. Joe so far. I like the way they are playing, selfless on offense. They've done a great job spreading the ball around. Last week they had 4 guys in double figures, which is Cape May Tech, which is just a testament to the ball movement that Coach Rodeo is instilling upon them. It's not just the one guy who gets the ball and shoots. It's not that kind of offense. So I really like the approach that they have shown this year. And this was a very big week for them to get back in the right direction after a tough 2 losses to Middle Township and Bishop Eustace. So
Absolutely. And then Hammonton, the boys basketball team, pretty solid week for them. They beat Deptford, they beat Highland. Then they go against Kingsway last Friday night. They lost that one in a game where they kind of fell behind early, weren't really able to get back into it until late in the fourth quarter. Made a nice little run there, cut an 18-point deficit down to 5, but weren't able to get over that hump and get that win. But I mean, it's a team that to me has already kind of exceeded the expectations. I mean, they only won 5 games last year. They came in this week at 5-2, although they did lose earlier in the week to Camden Tech on Monday morning. But pretty balanced scoring right now. Najee George, Ray AAA are kind of leading the way, but they're getting contributions from guys like Giancarlo Palmieri, who's hitting some 3-pointers for him. I think he had 14 the other night. Pat Costa continues to be a good scorer for them. Thing that hit me a little bit in the Kingsway game was that they weren't able to hit free throws down the stretch. They went to the line 10 times in the fourth quarter in a game that was under 10 points at one point. Only shot 3 of 10 from the line, and that's kind of uncharacteristic of this team. Usually they're money from the foul line, which was kind of tough. I think it had to do more with just them being a little bit tired. The legs weren't there really in the fourth quarter because there was a lot of running up and down the floor in that game.
Well, I mean, when I look at that game, it looks like it was the first quarter that kind of
18-8 they got outscored.
You guys scored 10 points in the first quarter, and they hung in there for quarters 2 through 4. But a team like Kingsway, you give them a cushion, they're not going to give it up. And Hammonton, I mean, give them credit. They've done a good job at not getting out to those slow starts this year. I think that's an area where they struggled last year, and it's why they only won 5 games. Now they're at 5 games already, and it's been a vast improvement. Really big surprise, I would say. And I just love the way this team is playing. It's not just Pat Costa. They're getting contributions from multiple guys. Najee George has been a welcome addition to this team. Rachel Buddy has done a great job picking up the slack. G. Palmieri, the whole gang is just really, really reliable right now. And at 5-2, what more could you ask for, considering you only won this many last year? So, looking forward to seeing where this team can keep it going or not.
And the only real basketball team that's struggling right now is St. Joe's Girls. They dropped to 0-9 last week. They lose to Cape May Tech. They lose to Cumberland. We're able to keep these games relatively close. They didn't get blown out in either one of them. The Cape May Tech game, Gina Tartaglia had 16 points. Erica Donahue had 10 against Cumberland. It's a team that's still trying to get over that hump. This week they got a shot. I mean, they go down to Olma on Wednesday, a team that's 3-6 and kind of rebuilding. They play a winless Pleasantville team on Thursday down in Pleasant, or I think it's Friday night down in Pleasantville. That's a game I think that they have a real good chance of winning, getting that first win. So I mean, they're starting to kind of later on. I think next week they have Pensacola and Tech, and their team's only got 1 or 2 wins. So the schedule's kind of starting to turn a little bit for them. We're not playing a lot of those monsters anymore.
Right.
This team, I think, within a week or so, should be able to grab that first win and maybe build from there.
Yeah, not only is the schedule improving, but we're seeing a little bit more offense from this team. They had 21 and 25 points last week. Now, outside of context, it doesn't sound too great, but it means that you got to remember they had 8 points, 11 points. They were scoring in that range. So, I mean, that's not 21 and 25 is not going to be enough to win most games. But maybe they're starting to figure things out, get some of that cohesion going on the floor. And if so, like you said, these are winnable games coming up. If they score 25 to 30 points, I think they're going to have a shot to win. We'll see what happens this week. Vineland, Olma, Pleasantville coming up. Pleasantville floating right around the 15 to 20 point per game mark. So I think that could be the big win number 1 for them. So I'm sure they'll take it.
Yeah, it'd be nice to talk about them and getting a win next week. So we'll see how that plays out. That pretty much wraps up the first segment of Local Sports. When we come back, we're going to talk some wrestling and track, and that's coming up right after this.
If you're looking to buy or sell, call Ricky Noriello at RE/MAX with 2 locations in Williamstown and Mays Landing to better serve you. Call Ricky Noriello direct at area code 609-352-9476. That's 352-9476. Or email him at rickym.remax@gmail.com. Remember, if you're looking to buy or sell, call Ricky Moriello at RE/MAX today. Stationery, t-shirts, and much more, they can design it and make it a reality. Gazette Print Shop will help you promote your business and spread your message. Give your marketing a new direction with GPS. Gazette Print Shop. Go to Showcase Sports when you're looking for high school sports equipment and apparel, featuring gear with the logos of the Hammonton Blue Devils, St. Joseph Wildcats, and other high school teams.
Welcome back to Gazette Sports Week, sponsored by 54 Fitness, and now we'll do a little wrestling. Hammonton's wrestling team got a couple wins last week. They beat Sterling 33-31 earlier in the weekend. And on the weekend, they had a quad where they beat Atlantic City and Lower Cape May, lost to Cinnaminson, one of the better teams in South Jersey. So not too bad. They continue to get some strong performances from the guys at the top and at the bottom. Ryan Figueroa won I think 3 matches. Andrew Mays won a bunch. Caleb Corrigan had 3 pins on Saturday. Heavyweight Cameron McDaniel continues to look pretty good. I think the thing they need to do is in those middleweights, they need to find a little bit more consistency. The guys that between maybe 38 and 60. Those guys can kind of start to put it together, and it looks like they are. I mean, it looks like guys like Sean Falcone at 152, Dylan Police at 145. They're starting to put together some nice seasons as well. So I think as this team gets more experience, some young guys out there on the mat. Ellen Kelton at 106 is wrestling pretty well right now. This is a team I think they can outside shot of getting into Group 4 playoffs, I should say, in wrestling. I think they're sitting 8th in power points right now. But I mean, a team that maybe can sneak in there and be a tough out, for a first round matchup.
Yeah, this is a team with a lot of talent, and it's a team with a lot of depth. They've returned a lot of guys this year, and it was an issue of which guys were going to be the ones that we can rely on to put on the mat. And it seems like they might be starting to finally figure that out. They got into a little bit of a groove over the past week with these dual meets. Ryan Figueroa, he was great. His pin against Dave Barber was a huge difference in the meet against Sterling. The upper weight classes really showed up versus lower Cape May. 170, 182, 195, and 220, and 285. All of those went to Hammonton in a really big one for them. And the go way to finish the week, heading into a quad meet coming up. They got I think it was actually on Monday.
It's on Monday. Barnegat, Oakcrest, and I forget. I'm skipping.
We got Barnegat, Cumberland, and Oakcrest.
That's it. Yeah. Oakcrest beat them.
Yeah,
I did see that score before we taped this. I didn't see scores on Barnegat or Cumberland, but they got a couple wins in that Oakcrest match.
So hopefully we'll see some consistency coming up out of Hammonton Wrestling because we know what this team is capable of, and they got the guys to get it done. But sometimes you got to find the specific guys that you can lean on.
Absolutely. And then across town at St. Joe, the Wildcats, they pick up their first dual meet win of the year. They beat an undermanned Gloucester Catholic team. I think every guy that went on a mat won in this one. They pretty much cruised past Gloucester Catholic. Got a lot of double forfeits in this match. A Gloucester Catholic team is kind of the same boat as St. Joe. Don't have a full squad, so it was tough. The freshman Alex Giordano, he continues to be impressive at 126. David Lucci, Jason Guerrero, Ryan Stansberry, Grassy, and Dylan Kramer all had wins. They also wrestled against Oakcrest and Mainland last week, lost both of those. But, again, when these guys are on the mat, the 6 or 7 guys that are getting out there for St. Joe every night, they're doing pretty well. This is a team that you're not going to win a lot, but again, there's only a handful of teams in South Jersey non-public beats. They're going to get in the playoffs. So, they got an outside shot and maybe winning a match there and then making some damage and some noise at districts.
Yeah, these guys know that they're not going to be favored in any of these dual meets just because of the numbers that they have. That doesn't stop them, though. This is a talented group of kids. And it's great to see him finally get that first win. It's kind of a wacky meet with a lot of forfeitures, like you said. I think I counted as 10 weight classes that were forfeited. But fortunately, St. Joe only lost points in the 120 pound weight class. So, and I think 3 of their 4 wrestlers that took the mat, I think it was got pins. Yeah. And Alex Giordano, once again, battle for a victory for the decision. So, great job taking advantage of the team's weaknesses. This is one of few meets on their schedule where they're going to be in a situation where they can win based on the numbers, and they did just that. And hopefully there'll be more coming up on the schedule.
Absolutely.
Maybe we can get 1 or 2 more. We'll see what happens.
Hammonton's Indoor Track team, they went up to Tom's River to the Bennett Center Tri-County Showcase last weekend. Did pretty well there. Set some personal bests there. Daquan Murray had a nice meet. He finished 3rd in the high jump. Robert Gardner was 7th in the pole vault for the boys. The girls' side, Riley Patterson was 6th in the 1600. They got two top 8 performances in the 32. Sabrina McFerrin 6th. Ashley Valentino was 8th, and Alexi Gardner finished 7th in the shot put. So, top to bottom, not a bad meet for Hammonton's indoor track teams. Looking pretty good. They're very busy this week. They're up in Toms River a couple of times. Had a makeup meet on Monday, and then I think they're again on Thursday afternoon. So. Again, the indoor track season starting to hit that stride a little bit, and these guys are starting to look pretty solid. Yeah,
absolutely. Some great performances on both ends in this one. You mentioned Daquan Murray. He took 3rd in a very, very close high jump. He was only a half-inch away from the number 2 competitor in Delsey's Keon Grady, 5'8". So really, really impressive job for him. Anthony DeRosa and Kevin Vanderveer performed really well in the shot put. Finished 10th and 12th. And a lot of girls runners and throws played well too. Mentioned Riley Patterson, what she was able to do in the 1600 meter. And how about the freshmen? We had freshman Sabrina McFerrin finishing 6th in the first ever 3200 that she ran. And then freshman Phoebe Wade was top finisher in both the 55 and the 400. So,
yeah.
and this is a program. They got talent
Mm-hmm.
at the top and the bottom, girls and boys. And I think they both of them have a really good makeup heading into the track season coming up in the fall, in the spring. Excuse me. So, looking forward to see what these guys can do going forward.
And then Hammonton's bowlers, boys again, stay undefeated, go 2-0 last week. The girls lose twice. Kind of same story. They're getting a lot of contributions from different guys. Alex Lanuti, Joey DiCamillo, Daniel Reynolds had a real nice match last week. I think he had a 600 series, so a real nice job by him. Ashton Scardino continues to bowl very well for the girls team. Girls team kind of rebuilding a little bit young. Boys team looks like one of the better teams in South Jersey right now.
Absolutely. Like you said, this team has a lot of guys that can beat you. A lot of high scorers. Joe DiCamillo played out of his mind against Gloucester Tech, rolling a 661 set score. I think it's the second that he's ever had. A really, really reliable senior over the past 4 years. He's a big reason why this team has been so competitive and finishing with such good records over the past few years. 9-0 right now I have them at, and it's a really impressive feat with the way they're scoring.
Yep.
And I think they only have a few more left, but this is a great group of guys, a lot of talent, and it's been nice following what they've been able to do in a sport that doesn't always get as much attention as the other ones we talk about. But these guys have had a great couple of years.
When we come back on Gazette Sports Week, we're going to talk a little girls basketball. Hammonton girls coach A.J. Siscone is going to be up here, and that's coming up right after this.
Of all the pizza joints in all the towns in all the world, go to Andy's Pizza and Ristorante. It's more than just pizza. It's a great place for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Go to the place where locals and people from throughout the area love to eat. Hammy Award-winning Andy's Pizza is located in the Raspberry Run Shopping Center in Hammonton. Once you try Andy's, you'll always go back for more. Call 609-56-PIZZA. That's 609-567-4992. It'll be the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Di Donato Family Fun Center is a beautifully renovated place that's fun for the whole family, featuring the Alley Restaurant, the Gutter Bar, Galactic Golf, video games, and bowling lanes.
Welcome back to Gazette Sports Week, sponsored by 54 Fitness. Joining us this week from Hammonton High School is their head girls basketball coach, A.J. Siscone. Thanks for coming up, Coach.
Thanks for having me.
And you guys, off to a real good start. I mean, what do you think's been the key to how well you guys have been playing so far this year?
Right off the bat, I think defensively we are. I think we're one of the better defensive teams in South Jersey. I think it's something that we've been building on for the last few years. Is sound defense, and I think it shows. A lot of teams we've been able to pin them to their season low, and it gives us every game gives us an opportunity to win when you can hold teams down to under 40 points a night. Even if you're not great offensively that evening, you got an opportunity to win games. So I think that's been one of the major reasons why we've been successful so far.
Coach, we talk a lot about the offense on here as well, and you guys have been very consistent in that regard. Obviously, Sarah Peretti's been a mainstay in your lineup for years. But what can you say about some of the secondary contributions you've gotten from other girls around her this year? Do you think this is more of a complete team this year, given the contributions of other girls alongside her?
I think we're closer to being more complete offensively. Sarah is still the centerpiece,
Right.
and she's been steadily producing. But I think it's taking some of the pressure off of her. I don't think she feels as if she has to do as much as maybe she had to last year or the year before. So I think that's helped her kind of settle in so far this season. But the other girl, Jada Thompson has risen up as a key contributor. So she creates so much, whether it's her scoring herself or creating opportunities for her teammates. The rest of the cast, it's almost kind of game by game. Different players have stepped up. Whether in some instances it's a Maya Portians will step up and hit a few key baskets for us in some games. Nikki Rapp had a big game against Lower Cape May to help us win that one. Paige Souter's been stepping up. It's kind of piece by piece we're getting there. If we can get them all to fire off on all cylinders together, then I think we can take that next step to be among the more elite teams in the area.
You guys, you've been able this year, I think, to kind of develop a pretty deep rotation. I mean, you get a lot of girls on the floor and a lot of almost interchangeable kind of parts. So you don't really lose anything depending on who's out there on the floor. I mean, you got to feel pretty comfortable about that.
Yeah, it's good to have options. Where in years past,
Mm-hmm.
I remember when my sister was the head coach. Going 6 players, 7 players deep, and that was about it. And this year we've been able to go 10, sometimes even more than that. So it's definitely helped out, and I feel like it's nice to have players that are good in different situations. If you're playing from behind and you're pressing, you've got a couple options off the bench that can help contribute to that. If you've got the lead and you're trying to be more patient, there's a couple players that need to be on the floor in that circumstance, and I think it just has opened up our options a lot more than what we've had in the past.
AJ, you guys are off to a nice 9-2 start, but you've been playing at a high level going back to February of last year when you won 9 of your final 10 games. What do you think of some of the key things that have occurred that have led to such a drastic change going back to last February? Because you guys have been winning at a high rate ever since the end of last season.
Yeah. It's difficult to account for any one specific detail or anything like that. I think the girls have built confidence. That's one of the keys all along. I think we've said that a bunch of times.
Yeah.
That their confidence, them believing in themselves, believing they're among the more elite teams, and it's kind of been a step-by-step process. We kind of had to learn last year in the first part of the season how to win games because we put ourselves in situations early last year to win some big games, and we let them get away from us. And I think from those experiences, we've figured out by the second half of last year how to start winning those closer games, how to put teams away rather than letting them hang in games. And that's made a big difference.
Yeah, it's one of the things I was going to say. Last week in the Highland game that I was at, you guys, the way you finished that game out, I thought was really nice. Cause, and you said it afterwards, whereas in the past, you guys maybe would have launched up some horrible shots, something like that. They closed that game out, I thought, really, really well. And it showed, I think, kind of a maturity that you didn't really see last year. Yeah.
That Highland game, we managed to take some serious time off the clock at the end and be very, very patient. And we did similar at Clearview earlier in the season in another close game. Just trying to learn from the past, because like you said, there were games in the past where we'd have the lead and we'd come down and rush some shots and make some poor decisions and keep teams in it. Where this year we're moving towards being more more mature, playing more like a veteran team.
Absolutely.
Well, that hot stretch of games last season that I mentioned, unfortunately, it happened after the cutoff, so you guys didn't qualify for the playoffs despite looking really good. But when you take the last 29 games or so into consideration, do you think this is a team that has a playoff run in it when you look around at the makeup of the roster and the landscape of things in South Jersey? What's your outlook going forward? This is a pretty big deal, 9-2.
Yeah. South Jersey Group 3 is pretty difficult.
Yeah.
There's some very good teams, the main ones, Ocean Cities, Winslow's, all those teams. There's a bunch. So no matter where you end up seated, I think it's a challenge. I think it would be important for us to have a home game in the first round.
Yeah.
That would go a long way. I feel like once you get into the playoffs, kind of anything can happen. So on any given night, I believe we're very close to being able to compete with those elite teams, with the mainlands and the Ocean Cities. I feel like we're closer and closer. Where if this was a year ago, I would have said no. I don't know. I don't think we're ready for that. But I think we're not far off. A team like Kingsway in our division, they're kind of the standard in the Tri-County Royal Division, and we played them last week and down at their gym, and they beat us. But we battled them for a few quarters, and there's obviously a lot of things we can take and learn from that game to prepare us for them the second time around. But they're the type of team that you'll face in the South Jersey playoffs, and I think we can compete with any of them. There's just some things we have to tweak on, especially offensively, to get to that level.
And this is going to be a tough week for you. You got a tough stretch, maybe 4 or 5 games coming up that are going to be, maybe going to show you a little bit about where you guys are at.
Yeah. We've got 5 more games until the playoff cutoff date. So we've got Williamstown and Clearview, Cumberland, GCIT. none of those games are exactly easy. So we've got to be prepared to just kind of march along one game at a time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we've done. I think we've taken on that perspective. When my sister was the head coach, it was kind of, we were trying to get to be a 500 team.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first step, to be a winning team. And then last year, that kind of was the goal. And me and my staff members early in the season said, being 500, okay, that's good. But this team can do a lot more than that. The goal should be we can win every single game. And then that's been kind of the approach ever since, is that we could one by one just focus on one game at a time and pick off one team after the other. And I feel like we, hopefully we'll be able to do that here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a steady progression for the team. But how do you feel personally? Because now it's your third season coaching this team, is that correct?
This is my second.
Your second season.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, when you go from year one to year two, how would you personally assess the state of the program under yourself? Do you feel like you finally have something set up and going the way you envisioned it when you accepted this job? Do you feel like things are starting to move along under your watch?
I think we're definitely progressing. It's a challenge to get enough numbers. We field the JV and varsity team. It would be great to have the numbers to field a freshman team. I think we can definitely get there. We're trying to make a greater effort here to encourage more younger girls, elementary school girls, middle school girls to come out and play. We're trying to work more closely with the middle school program, the Bulldogs programs, and try to be able to kind of harness more and more of the younger talent. Just keep just to keep girls playing, because somewhere along the line, I feel like there's traditionally been some disconnect, and I think we're taking steps in the positive direction. I think to get an increase in numbers, though, it's going to take a few years to see the results of that. So, but I think we're moving in the right direction. I think there's talented young players that are in 6th, 7th, 8th grade that'll be coming up over the next few years. So I think we're moving in a positive direction overall.
When you look at the team this year, is there anything that's kind of stood out or surprised you a little bit, you think? Or?
Anything that has surprised me? Not necessarily. I believe that they could, going back to last year, that they could win. They could win a lot of games. Defensively, I think last year we might have been a little surprised by the way they stepped up and played defense, especially in the second half of the year. Now we've come to expect it. Yeah. So that's not surprising. The offensive effort. I don't think there's any specific players that have been a big surprise, but I think the poise that they're starting to play with and so on offensively, understanding different situations in the games and how to adapt, how to make more decisions independently. I think that's been a pleasant surprise. More and more girls, they don't need me or my coaches to yell out what to do. They're understanding what to do in given situations on their own. So we see them growing as players, which is a pleasant surprise.
AJ, I don't know about Dan, but I can't remember the last time I've seen the program get out to this good of a start. How does it feel to see this program finally playing at a high level under your watch in the gym?
It feels pretty good. I remember when I was a kid watching my sister play, and those teams in the late '90s, they won. I believe they won 20 plus games all 4 years that she played. So as a child, I was accustomed to seeing the Hammonton Girls Basketball team winning and being among the elite teams in South Jersey. And then, of course, I know they had a nice run in the early 2000s. Katie Pikowski was the star player on that team. And then since then, it's been a little bit of a struggle. You know what? It's I'm trying not to focus too much on the 9-2 record just yet. We're starting to realize that teams are, when they play us, that they're gunning for us now. We're not the team that's always gunning for teams. Now they're looking forward to playing us and having an opportunity to have it us and a chance to beat us. So that's something we've had to kind of adapt to. That we can't take any of these teams or any of these games for granted, because teams are going to be now more pumped up to play. But it's been fun. It's definitely been fun so far to see the success that we've had early on.
All right. Well, thanks for
Thank
taking
you.
some time.
I
Best
appreciate
luck.
it. Thank you very much.
We come back on Gazette Sports Week. We're going to talk some Eagles football and a little bit of Sixers as well, and that's coming up right after this.
Maplewood is known for their homemade spaghetti. Their comfortable atmosphere and seating with complimentary bread and salad, along with great service to make it feel like home. At Maplewood, you are sure to get that Italian family love.
Welcome back to Gazette Sports Week, sponsored by 54 Fitness. Now we'll talk some national sports. We'll talk a little NFL. Eagles get their wish. They get the NFC Championship game. They're going to face the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday afternoon, later afternoon, 6:30 p.m. start, I think, at the link. Kind of the matchup I think everybody thought we'd see, going in, the Eagles and the Vikings, the 1-2 seeds in the NFC. Both teams, kind of narrow wins in their divisional playoff games. The Eagles survived, beat Atlanta 15-10. Falcons kind of, I think, blew it towards the end of that game, had an opportunity to win it. And then the Vikings with that dramatic win, Stephon Diggs with the big catch there and the run for the touchdown, as the Saints kind of, had an opportunity to win that game late and didn't take advantage of it. But, again, going to be a close game, I think, this weekend. I think both teams rely on the defenses, and we're going to see how, which team, is able to, I think, generate enough offense to maybe win this game on Sunday.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a defensive slugfest. I think the first team to 20 points might win this one. Vikings defense, they've been able to do is astounding this year. I mean, they did allow, I think, 400 yards to the Saints, but made some huge plays, making, I think they had 2 interceptions, a couple sacks. So yeah, they can use their defense to take control of the game. They don't need to lean on Case Keenum and the running backs to win. And I think the Eagles are almost in the same boat to a lesser scale because their defense is good, but I don't think it can take over a game like the Vikings can. But it's been really good at home. The home field advantage is going to be big. Eagles are allowing 14 points per game at the link since 2016, beginning of last season it was. So defense. That's going to be the theme of this game. I think the running backs are going to be the key to moving the ball. Both of these teams like to have those long, methodical drives where they just get chunks of yardage at a time. Limit mistakes, don't take big risks. I think you're going to see a lot of these are teams that are kind of carbon copies of each other.
Absolutely.
With Case Keenum and Nick Foles and the style of offense that they try to run. Although, I mean, Case Keenum can make some big throws. We've seen what he did yesterday, shocking the world with that throw to Stephon Diggs. So the Eagles are definitely going to have to, keep their corners honest because Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs are one of the better tandems in the league at receiver. So. And the Eagles might not be able to have the receiving threats active as they would like with Xavier Rhodes manning down Alshon Jeffrey. So this is going to be a game, I think, where whoever wins the turnover battle is going to win the game. Because if Nick Foles, he had a couple throws against the Falcons that they probably would have been intercepted against a better defense. They let a few interceptions.
And it is a better defense.
Fall to the turf, much better defense. So, if he makes even the slightest mistake, they're going to make them pay. The Vikings, they create turnovers better than almost any team in the league, and it's going to be important that the Eagles stay within their game plan and play to their strengths because you're not going to be having a shootout in this one.
No, I don't think so. I think it's going to be a game, like you said, it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think it's going to come down to turnovers, time of possession. The top 2 teams in the league in time of possession this year are almost identical. They like to keep their defenses fresh, keep them off the field, so they can come on and make things happen. And you talk about a Vikings team, like you said, outstanding secondary. Guys like the safeties, Harrison Smith. If Sendejo plays, it'll be interesting because he took a big hit at concussion last week. So we'll see how that plays out for them. If they're missing him, it maybe opens a little bit up for the Eagles. They're going to try and get Zach Ertz open. I think underneath is going to be tough against a real good linebacking core for the Vikings. Guys like Anthony Barr and Kendricks in the middle are real good at covering guys. Neither team gives up a lot on the ground. I think a difference maker in this one for Minnesota might be a guy like Jared McKinnon.
Oh yeah,
who's the kind of guy who can kind of make some things happen. The Eagles don't really have that aspect on their offense right now. I think the Vikings have a little bit more big play capability, I think, than the Eagles do. But again, they're 2 teams that aren't really looking to hit home runs. They're looking to just kind of grind you down.
The Jarek McKinnon observation is a big one because this is a guy that, I mean, I've been a fan of ever since he came into the league. He's an athletic freak, what he's able to do. And the Eagles, they've had lapses in tackling form at times. I mean, Mohamed Sanu and Julio Jones, Tevin Coleman, those guys broke away for some plays that should have ended sooner against the Eagles. And I mean, if the Eagles if they don't contain this guy and have defenders around him who are ready to wrap him up, he make the whole defense miss. And he had a touchdown in the game against the Saints. And this guy's a game breaker, and this game doesn't have many of those. Yeah. So they got to key in on him.
And a team that runs the ball, I think, a little better than people think, Minnesota. You know, Latavius Murray's not a bad back. I mean, he'll get you some tough yards.
Looks 100% healthy ever since he had that ankle surgery. I mean, the way he cuts and finishes with power. I mean, he's looking like he was when he had all those touchdowns in Oakland that one year. Behind another good offensive line. Offensive line for the Vikings has been worlds ahead of what it was last year.
Yeah, they made a lot of changes up front. You know, a very different offensive line from what they had a year ago, and guys that have been able to open up some running lanes, protect the passer a little bit. You know, Keenum, is a lot more mobile than a Sam Bradford was. I mean, Sam Bradford, with the bad knees, doesn't move around that much. Keenum gets after it a little bit. I mean, he'll roll out, he'll do some things. The Vikings will look to throw the ball to Kyle Rudolph, their tight end, who's a pretty nice player in his own right. I mean, he's a guy who can get underneath and do some damage to you. The receivers are pretty good. You talk about Thielen and Diggs, but they have some other guys that can hurt you too. Guys like Jarius Ryder, a couple of nice catches in the New Orleans game. This is a team that can do some things offensively, and they'll take chances every once in a while. Not quite as conservative as the Eagles are. I mean, they'll ask Keenum to make a couple throws during the game, but again, it's going to come down to can he not turn the ball over? I mean, he made some questionable decisions, I thought, last week in that Saints game, and made some bad throws. Even the throw to Diggs late was kind of like, well, he just kind of hung it up there. Yeah. But they went for the touchdown there. I mean, they were in a spot where they had to take that chance, and they did. Again, defense. I think in this one, I think the Eagles have 2.5 point underdogs. I think in this game, I think both teams have a little bit to prove. Minnesota came into the season. I think most people thought they'd be a 500 team. Didn't really give them much of a chance. I know out in Vikings country, they're talking about how nobody respected us. Very similar to the way the Eagles' approach is right now, which is kind of like hey, it's us against the world kind of a thing. I think you're going to see two teams that are looking to prove something this week and looking to make that trip to the Super Bowl, get back there, and take their chances against whether it be New England or Jacksonville.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting matchup. If you talked to me in August and told me that the NFC Championship game was going to be a matchup between Nick Foles and Case Keenum, I would have thought you were crazy. But that's just what makes the NFL great. These storylines that come up, people would have never predicted them, and it doesn't mean it's not going to be an entertaining game just because these aren't Carson. It's because it's not Carson Wentz and Tom Brady. These are guys that worked their tail off this year. Nick Foles had a great game to get the Eagles to this point, and it's going to be a really good one. Not a high scoring one, I don't think, but one with some big gutsy plays.
I don't think so. I think you're right. I think it's going to be entertaining, but like you said, you never know in the NFL. I mean, I think a lot of people thought the Pittsburgh-Jacksonville game was going to be a low scoring kind of defensive game, wound up being a 45-42 shootout. So don't be totally shocked if you see some fireworks in this one between the Vikings and the Eagles, because you do have players on both teams that can break some big plays, and these are defenses that, while they've been very consistent this year and been very good this year, both defenses, both have at times given up the big plays. So you got to be a little bit careful here and see who takes the most chances, I think, on both sides of the ball. But again, I think it's going to be a real good NFC Championship game. AFC Championship game, you have New England and Jacksonville. I think the Patriots are like a 9-10 point favorite in this. I think that's a little too much. I think Jacksonville's got a chance to go up there and at least give themselves an opportunity to win this game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be whether or not they can do what they want to do with running the ball. The running backs, T.J. Yeldon and Leonard Fournette combined for 4 touchdowns. I think probably had over 100 and probably over 175 total yards running and receiving. But as we know, like the Patriots like to do, they take one thing that you do good and they do whatever they can to neutralize that. We talked about Derrick Henry and how he had such a big game to get the Titans to this game against the Patriots. I think he had like 48 rushing yards. They key in on your strengths and they make you beat them other ways. Yeah. And I think they want Blake Bortles to beat them in this one. If you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, I don't think you want that. I mean, he's been capable this year, but this is Tom Brady we're talking about. I don't know any defense in the world that can keep him from getting his. So
we'll see that. 'Cause I think Jacksonville's a team that maybe
right.
can.
But Jacksonville, as good as their defense is, and how much we talked about how great their defense is, they still allowed 42 points to the Steelers, and I don't think they're going to be able to allow nearly as many to the Patriots if they're going to want to be able to win this game.
They're not scoring 40.
Yeah, because they're not going to be able to gash them on the ground like they did to the Steelers. So.
All right, we're going to see, and we'll have predictions on those games coming up later on in the Final Five. I'll talk a little Sixers real fast again. You can read about the Sixers every week, every 2 weeks, with Stephen's column in the Gazette. They played pretty well against Boston for a while, up by 20-22 in this game, but they wound up taking a choke there and coughed it up at the end.
Yeah, it was a game over in London. Only one game last week, but it was a tough one because they lost 114 to 103. They were up by 22, as Dan said, and I mean, you got to wonder what's going to give me, because this team has the talent in place that it wants. It went through all this process and this tanking to get pretty much the squad that it has right now, with the exception of Markelle Fultz, who's apparently on the way back.
There was a sighting last week.
His shot still looks weird. I don't know what's going on there, but we'll see. But it's just they're 5-3 in games where they have a 20-point lead. That should be 8-0.
Yeah.
20-point lead is a 20-point lead. I don't care who you're playing. Finish the game. They also lost 7 games where they've led by 11 points or more. And the turnovers are an issue. They're going cold. They're getting outmanned and out rebounded later in games. But there comes a point where you got to just finish the game and play 4 quarters. And I don't want to read too much into this because the Boston Celtics are a great team. Probably going to be a contender to go to the finals this year. But until the Sixers figure out how to work kinks like that out of their game, where they're committing 17 turnovers in the second half, it's just they're not gonna win. They're gonna be stuck in the bottom tier of playoff teams, if that. And if you get in, there's no way they're gonna win a series because, as we know, all the talent is at the top. If you don't have a super team, you don't really have a chance.
And to me, that's the fear that I have, is this whole process is not going to result in a championship contender. It's going to result in a team that kind of continuous as like a 4 or 5 seed, and you kind of get stuck in that trap where you can never kind of get out of it, and you wind up spending a decade being a middle of the road kind of team. And then you got to say, hey, well, there's a time now to just blow it up and start all over again.
Right. So we're back where we started. So.
Exactly. Well, that wraps up National Sports. When we come back, we're going to end the show with the final 5 questions coming up right after this.
54 Fitness is the gym that has everything you need. From various workout equipment, treadmills, to many weight machines, 54 Fitness will get you in shape.
Back pain? See Doc Manny today. Dr. Emmanuel Sanfilippo is a certified chiropractor and sports practitioner. With more than 25 years' experience, he knows what you need to feel like yourself again.
Welcome back to Gazette Sports Week, sponsored by 54 Fitness, and now we're going to wrap up with the final 5.
St. Joseph's Wrestlers earned their first team win of the season last week. Will the Wildcats earn another victory this year?
Maybe. I mean, I'm not really sure what they're going up against because it's kind of hard to know, what teams have roster-wise. If they can match up with another team like Gloucester Catholic, a team that is rebuilding like St. Joe that only has 8 or 9 kids on the team, I think they have an opportunity to win a match like that because when these St. Joe kids, when these 6, 7 kids are going on a mat, they're winning. Most of them I think have winning records. If they don't have winning records, are right around 500. So it's a team that again, if they can avoid having to forfeit 40 points in a match, I think they have an outside shot at winning another one.
I don't know. I think it's going to be a very, very outside chance. I looked ahead at the schedule, and a lot of teams that are on their schedule, it looks like you're looking at 10 plus team rosters. And when you look at a team like St. Joe, it was 8 wrestlers. It's a talented group, but you're putting yourself in a position where you pretty much got to be perfect because you got to offset all of those forfeitures. So, I don't think they're going to be able to put up enough points to do that again this year. But having said that, this has been a group of guys that has taken the mat and done very well in the weight classes that they've been able to field. But I don't think they're going to have another one this year.
Both Hammonton basketball teams are off to strong starts. Which team has been more impressive so far? this season?
I think the boys team has been a little more impressive. You know, with the girls team, the writing was kind of on the wall last year when they went on that hot finish to the final 10 games of the year. But I don't think anybody, you can chime in on this, but I don't think anybody saw such a drastic turnaround coming for the Hammonton boys team. You know, only 5 wins last year. They're already at 5 wins now. You know, both teams are pretty good and probably going to be in the playoff hunt. But if you told me before the season that the boys team would be playing like this, I wouldn't have believed you. So I got to go with them.
I'm going to go with the girls. I think, you know, they're sitting at 9-2. The 2 losses were probably to the 2 best teams that they played all year in Kingsway and then in that French charter school, you know, or Mastery Charter, I'm sorry, from Philadelphia. So, I mean, they looked, I think, pretty good. You know, the team that's been in every game they've played, really, except for those 2. You know, they've carried that momentum from last year's 9 out of 10 finish to win, you know, 9 out of 11 to start this year. I think, you know, when you look at the final 15 games of the season, only 4 of them come against teams with winning records. So this is a team that's going to collect some more wins, have a real good shot, I think, to win 20 games this year, which they haven't done in a real long time. So, you know, this is kind of like a potentially really big time season for Hammonton's girls basketball.
There were several strong individual performances locally last week. Which local high school player turned in the performance of the week?
You know, I kind of like what Jada Thompson did for Hammonton's girls basketball team. She scored 12 in the win against Glassboro, had 11 in the win against Highland, played pretty well in that Kingsway loss. You know, I think she's given them that kind of that second player that they needed this year. You know, we always talk about Sarah Peretti and what she does offensively, you know, leading the team in scoring. I think they were looking for one of the guards to step up. Jada's been that player, not only on the offensive end, but on the defensive side as well. He's a kid that makes a lot of steals, creates a lot of havoc defensively. She's always guarding one of the better players on the other team. Just really an outstanding all-around player. And to me, I think she had a real nice week last week. And if you watched her play last week, kind of all her talents were kind of on display last week. So I really like what she did.
I'm going to go a little bit outside the box here and go with Joe DiCamillo of the Hammonton Boys Bowling team. As I mentioned earlier in the show, he had a 661 set score versus Gloucester Tech. That was 86 more than anybody else in the game. And, you know, it's good, but he's done better. He had a 761 this year. But, you know, this is a guy, he's been money for this team for the past 3 years. And, you know, it was nice to see it all culminate for him with a big performance like this as his senior year winds down. You know, this is a team that's done well this year, and he's a big reason why, really dominant performer over the past few years. So I got to give it to him based on what I've seen.
Nice. Like it. What surprised you the most about the NFL divisional playoff games last weekend?
I think it's got to be the Eagles' defense containment of the Falcons' offense. You know, this is a Falcons team that they can score 35 points in a blink of an eye, and you hold them to 10 points. I mean, they didn't force any turnovers, but you know, they just simplified the Falcons' offense. They really weren't doing anything that the Eagles looked frazzled by. Everything that they tried to do, the Eagles snuffed out. You know, they shut down the running game for the most part. Tevin Coleman had a nice game, but Devonta Freeman had 10 carries for 7 yards. They did get hurt eventually, but, you know, they were stuffing everything in the middle. The cornerbacks, you know, Jalen Mills is a guy that I said should probably be cut at times in the past, and he's going up there one-on-one with Julio Jones, and he's holding his own. He pretty much played a perfect game. You know, I'm just really impressed with the way their defense played. If you told me the Eagles were going to score 15 points, I said, well, they're probably losing. But they held them to 10 and got it done. So really impressed with the way the defense played on Saturday.
Yeah, I think the thing that surprised me the most, and a lot of it had to do with what you just got done saying, is how well the Eagles played, was really just how poorly Atlanta played in that game. I mean, just how out of sync,
a little bit.
Just how out of sync they looked almost from the start. I mean, they looked like a team that were like nobody was really ever on the same page. You know, I don't think the Eagles did anything really spectacular to stop them. They just couldn't make plays. And I think that final possession they had where they arguably should have won the game, I think a lot of bad decisions on that drive and on that last series there. You know, that shovel pass on second down inside the 5-yard line, I thought was really just a dumb play there. I mean, I don't think, you know, even the final play, you know, Matt Ryan rolls out, which to me, you're taking away half the field by doing that. You know, and you really
they knew where the ball was going before they snapped.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, and I mean, to me, you know, you gotta. I think you gotta get a little bit more creative offensively. You gotta be able to score in a situation like that and get the touchdown and win the game. And they weren't able to do that, and I mean that really kind of surprised me because they had themselves in position to win a game and didn't get it.
And finally, the AFC and NFC championship games are this weekend. Who's going to be in the big game this year?
Well, I'll take the AFC first, where I really think, I think Jacksonville presents some problems for the Patriots. I think the defensive matchup, I think they're going to be able to maybe take away, the outside receivers, maybe limit what Cooks can do, limit what Amendola can do a little bit. I think they're going to be able to put pressure on Tom Brady. And I'm curious to see, how big an impact Gronkowski makes in this game. I think they're going to have to dump it down to him. I think they'll be able to, maybe control Deion Lewis a little bit, although I think the guy's one of the more underrated backs in the league. I think this guy could have a huge game. I kind of think New England wins, but I don't think it's going to be the blowout a lot of people think. I think the Patriots win this one 24-17. The NFC game, I think the Eagles are going to have a tough time putting points on the board. This is a Minnesota defense. They shut the Saints out for a half. It's a Vikings defense, and if this defense is on, the way the Eagles' offense looks right now, they might not score more than maybe 7 points in this game. I'm not going to go so far to say Minnesota will shut them out, but I think it's a defense that's capable of doing that. And which is kind of odd to say in an NFC Championship game. Because I don't think you've seen a defense that could do that maybe since that Ravens defense back in, I think it was 2000 or 01, whatever year they beat the Giants, when Ray Lewis and those guys. But I kind of think, it'd be a low-scoring game. I think it's going to come down to turnovers, time of possession. I think the Vikings eke this one. I think they win at 16-10.
No, the Eagles, what I've given them credit for since Carson Wentz got injured is that they stayed true to their identity. They didn't try to be the same team that they were with Wentz. They didn't try to get into shootouts and score 30 points a game. And I think that's going to help them because when you try to be something you're not, that's when mistakes happen. I think you're going to see a conservative Eagles offense that takes what the defense gives them and puts points on the board when they can. I don't think either team is going to score much in this game, but I think we see a situation where the Eagles protect the ball, they don't turn it over, they win the turnover battle somehow against a great defense in the Vikings, and their defense finds a way to limit Case Keenum, Stephon Diggs, and the whole gang there at home. Because I really like the home field advantage that we've seen at the Link over the past 2 years. I think the Eagles, it's going to be the ugliest game we've seen in a while, but I think they're going to find a way to get it done. I'm calling it like 17-16 at this point. It's going to be close. As for the Patriots, it's going to be a lot more closer than they're used to winning. I mean, they pretty much had a walkthrough against the Tennessee Titans to get to the championship game. But ultimately, like you said, the Jacksonville Jaguars defense can take away a lot of guys, but I don't think they're going to be able to take away enough guys to win this one. And I also don't think that they're going to be able to do what they would like to do on offense, running the ball, because you can believe that the Patriots are going to make them one-dimensional any way they can. I think the Patriots win one 28-17.
Okay. Well, that wraps up another edition of Gazette Sports Week, sponsored by 54 Fitness. We'll recap both championship games next week. Maybe do a little bit of Super Bowl talk, and we'll talk about all the local teams, so be sure to check it out.